Grab your popcorn because in today's episode, we are discussing the significance of Cy Ray and what happened with those timing advance records. As always, everything we discuss is for entertainment and is speculation. Please like and subscribe, and definitely join our discussion in the comments. If you're ready, let's get into it. Welcome back to Typically Unique. I'm Kim Aponte, and I'm here with my husband, Carlos.
Hello. And today we're going to talk about Cy Ray.
Yes, we are.
And I feel like he was such a big part of the Kohberger Innocence Project. You know, not the
defense.
Yeah, the defense. He was such a big part of it, and so many elements of his testimony we even heard the word exculpatory, and that so many elements of his testimony was going to be what broke open this case on the defense side. And now today, as we sit here today, a few months after the plea deal, it almost seems insignificant for the stuff that he was
insignificant. Oh my gosh. Because he hasn't talked. Is that what your point is?
I think I have a lot of points, but I want to hear what made you say insignificant.
Yeah, because he's totally everything he was going to testify to was the significance of the case, and nobody's talking from the defense side. So I don't think his evidence and his testimony has been negated. It's still relevant. The issue was that what he testified to is that there's evidence that I know you have, and it's not been turned over, and we need that, and I know you have it. And that's what really made him so significant. And I think that's what led to the plea deal. So all the significance of that, because if you don't have what you need as far as evidence to prove where you are at the time of the crime, which is what Bryan Kohberger wanted it for, which was Cy Ray would be able to do with we're talking about the timing detail.
7-day timing data or something, right?
I wrote it down. It's the timing advance records.
Timing advance records. Okay.
So the timing advance records. And I looked up in the documents just to clarify, and it actually made way more sense to me after knowing now, going back and seeing everything, like how he was saying for sure. Like he even said he had an email like, I know this exists. I know you communicated with this person that has it. And we need, he needed that to, and what's so significant about it is the prosecution needed it. Like the cops needed it, and they have it because they had to have used it. Well, they didn't use it in the documents. Because remember that great map they made in the PCA? Like they were like, well, we think this is where he went, and we think, but he had an AT&T phone, right?
Yeah.
Bryan Kohberger. Okay. They got the AT&T timing advance records from the dates around the crime. They got that.
Yeah.
So if he pinged in the area, they were willing to say he pinged in the area.
Right.
Then they would have that on those, because they did a tower dump. Like they did a whole complete tower dump of like every phone that of those AT&T phones that were in that area. So, I mean, it's completely significant.
So let me go back to something you said, that you believe Bryan Kohberger took the plea deal because Cy Ray could not convince the defense to turn over something.
The prosecution
turn over something that he believes that they had.
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, Bryan Kohberger said, well, if I can't get this, then I should plead guilty and not fight this in court.
So I think it's more like, if you don't see if you're the indicted person and you don't get to see all the evidence they have against you, and there's this evidence that your expert is saying, hey, they have this, I could use it to prove your alibi, but they're not giving it to us. There's a couple things with that. Like, I don't know the evidence they have against me, so the death penalty is on the table, right? So I'm going to plea, live another day, and in this case, I don't think it's just appeal. I think it's because they know things were hidden. Like, those are the kind of cases that, even if they say, oh, you're giving up your right to appeal, if they find that type of, the harshest word would be corruption, innocent word would be mishandling, or, the case or whatever, he's going to be able, and I think that's why the secrecy is, because they're going to be able to use that. They're all staying quiet. Ann Taylor's still his attorney. Like, the case is closed. Why is she still his attorney? I think that's why he took the plea, because they have to get their hands on that, and that's going to take time. And obviously, when they tried in front of the judge didn't want to hear it. The judge didn't want to see it. The judge called him a conspiracy theorist instead of saying,
what is it? Hear it, see it. What is it?
What Cy said that he could show. He said, I could show you the emails that I have, the communication that I have, that shows, not only do I know, there were two parts. Not only do I know you can get this, but I know they got it. Like he had maybe they turned over something, like an email that they didn't realize what it was about. And he read it and was like, oh my gosh, they actually got this.
From what I remember, and it's only what I remember, and there's a lot of layers to what you're saying here, but from what I remember was the judge says, if you have something specific, just turn it over to the court. I don't need you to testify and call out the prosecution. I just hand me the document. Hand me the document. If there's some, damning piece of email that's out there, hand me the document. The only thing that he was citing was that they asked for it. Hey, we want this, this, and this. Doesn't mean that you get it, but you can ask for it. And I think that if I remember correctly, they asked for it because the FBI said, hey, make sure you ask for these 5 things. I'm guessing at the number.
Yeah.
And that was what they did. They just said, here's an email to AT&T or whoever this person was. We want these 5 things. So I think what was presented in court was that email saying, we asked for things, and they kept saying, well, they got it. Well, how do you know they got it? You can ask for whatever you want, but doesn't necessarily mean you got it. And
maybe it was a warrant return.
And and I think the judge was saying, if you know that they got it, that this person provided it, prove it, show it. Don't come up here and say, well, look, they asked for it in this email, so I just think they're lying. I have no tangible proof, but I just think that they're lying. The judge was like, you can't do that.
He didn't say he didn't. He said, I have this stuff. Now think about that. If you're playing a game against another person and they're cheating, are you going to hand them over some important, sensitive information so that they can just lose it, or whatever?
Well, how do you lose something that's copyable?
Oh, well,
Come
yeah.
on. Come on. I mean, there's a paper trail here that is pretty significant. And we're talking about a conspiracy that goes to, you know, for lack of a better term, some lab rat in AT&T who's saying, you know what, I'm willing to spend the rest of my life in jail for this. You know, I mean, we already got so many people involved in this so-called conspiracy. Now we're saying some lab rat in AT&T is like, yeah, throw me in the mix too. I want to get rid of my family that I've had for the past 20 years, and I want to go to prison for the rest of my life.
Right. It's so important like that, that he did use someone's name, and it's not a lab rat. It's like a manager or director of a department there that provides that type of information to the FBI. To the FBI. So I don't know why. This is a good question that needs answered. A lot of people have been, so call to action out there. A lot of people have been writing questions into the law enforcement agency. Why did a prosecutor write warrants? That's the police officer's job. Why is the prosecutor doing the police officer's jobs? Like, that doesn't make sense. It just seems fishy. Like, it just all seems fishy. Like, and she's a new prosecutor. Like, she's new in there. So, like, let's use the vulnerable person who probably doesn't really know, you know, all the protocols and everything. I don't know. I'm speculating about that. But
that seems to be a reach.
There's one thing to know about Cy Ray, because this is not his first controversy in the court systems with things like this. He had an issue in Colorado where the judge out there wasn't trusting in the science of he wouldn't approve him as an expert witness, is ultimately what it came down to. And Cy Ray will be heard. Like, he will be heard. Like, he ultimately spoke out about that on his own podcast when he had that, and he explained that whole thing, like what happened. That judge had issues, not just with him, but with many, many, many other people. Like, there were complaints and things found about him. And Cy Ray even went out and, like, I don't know if it was his website, but there is a website out there. And it says Colorado on it, and it has to do with what happened out there, showing his work, showing what it's capable of, showing what, here's what we could have shown. Here's validating, what I was trying to do. And so now he is doing this program of training that's called Preventing the Plea. And it almost seems like, because one of the cases he's going to cite when he does this training is the Bryan Kohberger case. So I'm like, is that going to be his way to kind of address some things in a way that will be allowed?
And I'd be interested to find out what that whole thing is, because preventing a plea is sometimes not warranted. I think sometimes families want a plea. Sometimes the defendant wants a plea. Sometimes all parties involved want a plea. So why prevent something that, people want? But I don't know enough about it to even speak about it. So I'd be curious what that is when it, shows up somewhere, and we get to learn a little bit more about it.
Can we address a little bit about it right now?
Sure.
I had a thought when I was looking at, and even when I was explaining it to you the other day on that little pamphlet description of this training, you would think it would be about timing advance data and things like that, but it said IGG on there. And I'm like, why would he be addressing IGG with law enforcement and preventing pleas? And there was a lot on there also about the cyber sleuths on social media, like meddling in cases and everything they do online. But to have IGG in there, I was like, is it because it looks right now, with everything that I've read in the documents and everything that's been released, that's still the only piece of evidence they had. That's still the only piece of evidence they had. And I just did a video the other day focused on the DNA experts speaking out, saying yeah, we can provide you with the DNA, like the profile and the person's name, but you still have to corroborate that with evidence.
Mhm.
So do you think that might be the issue? Like
No.
he's seeing, see, I do. I think
Mhm.
that's the issue. I think he's going to be like, look, you can't just rely on this technology. You got to have other things. I don't know.
I personally don't think that um, anybody stopped the moment they got the DNA.
But they have not produced anything solid other than the DNA about Bryan Kohberger. I just asked tonight in a chat because I haven't been able to go through 1,000 documents yet.
Yeah.
They say that he bought a replacement knife sheath or bought a knife.
He was looking at it.
Well, looking at it doesn't make you guilty. I thought they said he bought it. And I'm like, well, then wouldn't you think that you would show that like in the evidence somewhere? And we haven't seen that.
Only thing I know is that they found him looking for on Amazon, I believe it was, a replacement knife sheath that he didn't purchase and ended up deleting that from his history. So when the forensic guys went in there, guys and gals went in there to look, they saw that. So it was something that this innocent person was looking at and then for some reason needed to erase from their computer. So when you say there's no other evidence, there's a lot of other evidence. You're talking about strength level,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of evidence here in this.
Circumstantial.
Yeah, there's a
Circumstantial.
lot of evidence, because any other theory, any other potential perpetrator would only be circumstantial. So where you have the best evidence, is with Bryan Kohberger. Hands down. Hands down. There's nobody that has been produced in this case, whether speculating or saying, I know that they have a tie, has even come close. Because I even tell you, I'm like, if somebody else was put forth and Bryan Kohberger was said, hey, let's listen to all the online sleuths and let's assume he's not guilty. Let's just assume it, even through all the investigation, it's pointing towards him. But let's push him to the side and bring this other person forward. The online sleuths would go twice as crazy because there's fractions of evidence leading toward anybody else than Bryan Kohberger.
That's only because they were laser focused on him. That's all they
weren't.
ignored.
They were laser focused on a white Elantra.
They ignored I keep telling you, the other DNA in the house. They didn't take that. They didn't do genetic genealogy testing on that. They haven't like I would like to see back to the timing advance data with Cy Ray. There's 8 hours, right? There's a questionable 8 hours time lapse between the time of the crime, they're saying at 4 something a.m., and the time the 911 call is. And even the prosecution has admitted there's signs of a cleanup. And the prosecutor even says there's evidence of more than one perpetrator. Like those words have come out of their mouths. So why not take that timing advance data and clearly map out where was everybody that night? Who else was in that area? Like you have that data, you have it. A lot of people are like, were the roommates even home? Because their statements from the beginning until everything that's coming out, like, don't make sense with the narrative that they were first describing. So a lot of people are like, were they even there? They could easily show that. They've got their phones. They could easily do that. So when you just say, oh, well, they only had one, well, because that's all they focused on. And it looks like that's what Cy Ray's training is going to be about. Like you have to corroborate, you have to do a thorough investigation because these online sleuths are calling you to task. Like there's some shows that are like they're better investigating than the cops did. So I hope he's gonna share that with them.
There's a lot in there, what you said. I'm going to let most of it go for now, only because I kind of want to get back to maybe how I opened the show. And that is, I said that everything that he was talking about, which was so significant at the time, seems insignificant now. Only because we haven't heard from him, and nobody, to my recollection, that I've heard and seen, over the past couple months, is even citing anything about the phones and Cyray and all this stuff that was supposedly exculpatory. The same with Bethany, not to bring something else into this, but Bethany was going to say something that was exculpatory.
Mhm.
And I hear nothing about that today because we're finding all these little things in the documents that say, oh, that's curious. I just heard a TikTok that I've heard, maybe a month or so ago and recently again, and it just made me roll my eyes again. But, you know, uh, I saw this creator come on and just was flabbergasted. Oh my God, Dylan, her phone, she doesn't know for a fact if her phone was on Boise time or
Oh, yeah.
this time. And
Mhm.
oh my gosh,
But the
yeah,
cops know.
oh my God, this is, how can we believe this person, was only a witness to, and I can't even believe their witness testimony because they don't even know if their phone was on what time zone. Like the reaching for a nugget of either something to talk about or to question is
It's not
not bringing
reaching.
this case any closer to what really happened, because I think that's what everybody wants to know. And the only person who can really say that in a moment of truthness or whatever is Bryan Kohberger.
Or the person who really did it, or the people who really did it. So
Yeah,
if he didn't really do it, then he's not going to provide those answers.
right.
And I just have to address, because you brought up Bethany. So it doesn't seem like she's been very cooperative. She has like lawyered up, shut up, moved away, hasn't returned for anything. I mean, that looks very more than just being frightened of going back
No, I think it's being
to the
frightened of me
scene.
going back.
I
I'd be
mean, well,
terrified.
the person's arrested.
I'd be
So
terrified. Well, according to the online sleuths who think that she was involved, there might be other people out there that got something on her. What can you believe at this point? There are
yeah,
people online targeting her.
right. So what
Right.
did she say?
Just dismiss
So
that statement like it's nothing.
no,
Like that's important.
it is important. It is important. So yes, you would want to get away and be somewhere that's like, not associated. So for your safety. Okay. So I get that. But what she said, as in part of her interviews, was that she heard a loud noise, like a firework, like something, and that was on the first floor, and they're saying Bryan was only on the second and third floor. And we're gonna have to do an episode on the investigation questions and the way they question these kids. We're gonna have to watch the information that was given, because if you're sitting down with me and I tell you, honey, I was home alone today, and I heard this, like a firecracker, and I thought it came from, a firework, and it came from, the garage, you know aren't you going to ask me some questions about that? Like, did you see it? They didn't do any of that. And that's directly involved in the case. Like, that's trying to find out what happened that night. So there's a lot to that, and it's off topic, but
Have all the
that's why.
documents
But
been
going
released?
back to the topic of Ray and his timing advance data is to identify other people that could have been maybe better suspects in that area at the time of the crime, using that for that.
Who's a better suspect than somebody who's driving a white Elantra up and down that street numerous times, and then the only vehicle on that street during the time of the murder?
Tell me how they
Active.
know it was his car.
I'm not saying I'm saying his. You put the his in there. I'm saying who better to look at than somebody in a white Elantra?
Yeah.
Okay. Who owns the white Elantra?
He does, but there's
Okay.
other people that do too.
Okay.
And there was one that was crashed in Portland after the crimes. I think it was in Portland.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was there just days after, wasn't parked there for a while, just happened to show up that day.
Parked.
Yeah. Crashed.
Oh yeah, people dug into that, like they know who owns it, and it's all connected back to my theory of the drug ring.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, if they would have explored that maybe a little bit further.
Have all the
that
documents
would
been released?
help. Not unredacted. And I don't no, I don't think
Okay.
they've all been. No, the documents for sure have not all been released.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm thinking about the court records.
Okay.
The
Because
court
I
records.
think we say pretty innocently, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And I've heard that like a gazillion times. And then when those documents are released and they did ask that and they did look at that and they did do that, then we say, oh, okay.
Honey, you're a businessman.
I am.
When you want to do your job well,
I do.
and you're going to cut through the chase, right? You're not going to, in an important, I don't know how to relate this to business, but if you're trying to make a big sale or a big pitch, you're making a big pitch, you're not going to go in there and like describe all the paper, what kind of paper you wrote on and what kind of pen you wrote with, and all these frivolous details. You're going to go in with, here's what I have. You're going to describe it, the important details.
Yes.
They have this case that they have put the bad guy in jail, case closed. They're releasing information, and none of the information is the big important information. We haven't seen anything yet. We haven't seen the sheath. We haven't seen any Amazon receipts, if there are any. We haven't seen anything about the white car. Nothing. It makes no sense. Like, lead with the important information.
Like the DNA?
Yeah, there's nothing of that came out. Because they weren't even going to use that. That's probably why they're not releasing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I heard a lot about the DNA recently in documents, but I could be wrong. So my point about the insignificant is that it's just surprising to me that this was the savior for the defense, and all of his testimony that was supposedly coming is now like, well, I'm asking the question, is it there? Did it really exist? Because if they're making a big thing about, when they moved locations and then Cyray was available, via Teams call or something, but wasn't in the courtroom. And, he was going to make all these accusations about how the prosecution has some documents that they may or may not have, who knows. But there's nothing that has been brought forward that has shown anything that he had exculpatory evidence. And even when we talk about this advanced timing data, his phone was off. Bryan Kohberger's phone was off. So what are you tracking?
We don't know for sure, because again, they haven't put anything out. How do we know his phone was off?
Because they did a forensic analysis on his phone with probably two of the top leading forensic scientists in the field.
So when I get to that report, I'll let you know that I saw that, and they said 1000% that the phone was off.
Okay. Yeah. Because they actually came out and spoke and did an interview. I think it was a husband and wife team. They actually came out and did an interview.
Oh, I can't remember their last name. Yes. So they're the experts for the prosecution, right? And so there were going to be experts for the defense to counter that. Price IRA was probably part of that. Because I told you I believe there's explanations for that. Like I believe there are ways that your phone can behave like it might be off, but it's not. So, and I don't know, like you're saying, so your point is there would be no timing advance data because it wouldn't connect. But I should know this. This case is crazy. You got to know about IgG. You got to know about timing advance data. You got to know about, I forget. I just forget. So we always have to say, oh, I have to go back and look it up. And I will. And then we'll be done recording this and I'll go, oh, I wish I would have said this. So I apologize if you're watching and you're screaming right now. Kim, you should know better. Put it in the comments, please. Please put it in the comments.
Well, and I also want to say this too, because I guess I want to be fair on both sides, and during parts of the pretrial hearings, and especially when Cyree first spoke, and then, there was a lot of speculation around what he was going to testify to, even though he was mum. I thought if there was anybody who had me moving closer to the fence on this, or thinking that, hey, this, I still believe in my heart, if I was on the jury and this went to a jury trial, I would have had a very hard time convicting him to death. Yeah. So I know that there would have had to have been a lot more than what we had heard for me to feel that way. For me to even vote not guilty, somebody like Cyree would have had to step up and created a bunch of reasonable doubt. Mm-hmm. And the way it started playing out was that he was going to produce some reasonable doubt. Mm-hmm. So I guess part of me is disappointed that I wanted to take that step closer to looking at other possibilities in this case, and not even other possibilities per se, but saying that maybe the state doesn't have the mountain of evidence to convict him to death. So that is, for me, not having anything for the past, since the plea deal, nothing about this. It's making me feel like, why? Right? So now I want to ask the question that, the conspirators are asking the cops. Why didn't they do this? Why don't they say this? Why don't they just show us everything you say to me every episode? Just show me the information. Well, why does that to be so secretive? This person's life, all the things you say. So let me flip it around. Yeah. Why does he have to be so secret? Why does this have to be, there are people who are innocent that scream it from the mountaintops, whether there's a gag order or not.
It didn't go to trial. So defense, it's not his job to prove his innocence. It's the prosecution's job to prove that he's the culprit. So they have the defense has to take the evidence. The defense takes the evidence from the police. The police say, here's what we have to say this guy's guilty.
And they have private investigators too.
Okay, well, that another call to action is to see, was the defense was it even a possibility for them to get their own information from AT&T for this time? That's what you're talking about with the AT&T.
They have their own private investigator. They can go anywhere they want.
Yeah.
Talk to anybody they want.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, you would assume she did. I don't know. I didn't hear anything about that, but
why are they keeping it so secret? Why can't they just show it to the public?
That's a great question. I think this is going to go through the appeals process. Like I think that if that's what's happening, like they're dealing with a system they don't want that. They're going to play hardball. They have the whole way. Everything Ann Taylor, the defense attorney, tried to do got shut down. Like She tried to go the Frank's hearing route. She tried to go with other motions and things, and everything was no, no, no. Like, she never even had a chance. Like, they wouldn't even go to that portion of the program so she could even present anything. So when you're saying, why keep it so secret? The prosecution and the judge is the one that kept it secret. They're the one. What the information she had or was trying to get to prove his innocence.
Like what?
Like what? Like putting them on notice to turn over the information that Ray says you have. Like, turn it over.
They said they don't have it.
What? So we're supposed to believe them?
Under penalty of perjury?
How about,
yes.
No, you're not just going to believe them,
yes.
Judge. You're going to say, I'm going to dig into all your communication between this office and AT&T, and I'm going to, see what really happened. Oh, there's an email here that says that they responded to you and that they provided that. Where is it?
Where did they?
Where
was the email that
prosecutor?
Where's the email that said they provided that?
I'm being
okay.
a scenario.
Okay. But well, I don't want to lay that down as fact.
That is what Ray said in his affidavit. He did say that. Now, I don't know exactly. I don't have it verbatim, but he said he has a paper trail. Like, he has a paper trail. So now, why aren't they on TV?
I think you're misinterpreting.
Of course.
No, I'm just saying. I think you're misinterpreting.
I don't think I am. I've read it a few times, but that's a great question. Am I misinterpreting that?
I believe because what he was citing was, you can ask for this and they will provide it. Like, it is not under seal anymore. Like, there used to be a time period where the advanced timing data was not provided because it wasn't ready for public consumption or law enforcement consumption. But most recently, probably within the past couple of years, it can be part of a warrant or subpoena to ask for and receive this advanced timing data. From what I understood was that it exists because it's a major data dump for a short period of time.
That's what the prosecution said.
Okay.
And that's true if you go like this one way, if you go through the one office. But I have this and I want to pull it up. Can I read it?
Yeah. Yeah, sit up close. I'll just sit in the background and just be listening.
So Mr. Ray notes that Agent Balance, that's the FBI agent, failed to include an analysis of handoff data for defendant's cell phone between the hours of 2:30 and 3 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, that he did not include the mapping he relied upon to establish defendant was near the crime scene on several occasions before the crime, and he failed to disclose how his drive testing works to a sufficient degree. So that's one.
It has nothing to do with what we just talked about.
It's related.
Okay.
I have firsthand knowledge that AT&T was providing the FBI with timing advance reports prior to August of 2021. So that's okay. That's not directly with the case.
Exactly.
I have worked with the AT&T Global Legal Demand Center for over 15 years. I have firsthand knowledge that the AT&T GLDC is one way, not the only way, for law enforcement to obtain call detail records from AT&T.
Yep.
It's not about the email yet. I have firsthand knowledge that there is another way to obtain call detail records from AT&T without going through GLDC. Over the course of many years, AT&T has had several different programs in partnership with federal law enforcement, primarily the FBI, that allowed for call detail records to be disseminated to the FBI without going through the standard GLDC process. The first AT&T timing report I was presented and had a chance to review and become familiar with in August of 2021 was obtained from AT&T through one of these programs, not through GLDC. I have been involved in numerous investigations where AT&T call detail records were obtained through these AT&T programs outside of GLDC. I have firsthand knowledge and experience in working with individuals at AT&T associated with these other programs. One such individual is Boyd Jackson. Mr. Jackson is program director, not a lab rat, at AT&T, who manages many of the programs I am referencing. Mr. Jackson is the primary contact for the FBI when requesting records outside of the standard GLDC.
And let me just pipe in here. So my memory tells me I remember all this, and I'm still standing behind what I said, because I know he's going to go into the fact that he got this piece of paper accidentally one day. He started doing some work on it. They said, "Hey, you got to give me that back." I remember all this.
Yes,
I remember
yes.
all this.
Okay, so I put a star next to
all
this
right.
one.
Here's the one. All right.
There is work product in the state's possession created by the FBI showing the AT&T timing advance data was not only obtained but regularly referenced and used in the course of this investigation. Its existence is well known to the investigators and prosecutors. Now that doesn't say the email that I said, but
Nope.
he is calling them out directly.
And wait a minute, let's go dissect that for a minute.
Okay.
Where's the smoking gun in this one?
He's saying, I know you have it because you used it. Because
who used it?
The prosecutors and the investigators.
No, the FBI used it in some. He's saying that I think the FBI has it because what they produced, what the FBI gave the prosecution and the investigators, maybe could only have come from that type of data. He's not saying 100%. If you read it, he's not saying that's 100%. Read that again.
There is work product.
Work product.
So they produced something.
Yeah, the FBI gave the prosecutors, investigators something that he feels could only have come from the timing advance data.
Yes.
So I don't know for sure, but this work is
the only way to make that thing. He knows. He's the expert.
We're talking about.
He knows.
He knows what? What does he know?
He knows what it takes to produce those reports.
Okay. And what did the report yield?
Well, nobody knows anything because they won't show us anything.
Okay. So what did the report yield in the public's eye?
Didn't he say previously that they didn't even map it correctly?
Okay. So what the report yielded was, where is Bryan Kohberger?
Well, and according to him, incorrectly, because he's saying they didn't.
According to him, incorrectly.
Yeah.
So how could you have this very sophisticated, amazing piece of data that the FBI handed you on a silver platter and you messed it up? You can't have it both ways.
Who messed it up?
The people who put out the information saying Kohberger was here.
Cops. Quit saying the people. It's either his defense team or it's the prosecution team. That's it. So who did this? The prosecution. Who did it for them? If it's the FBI, if it's the Moscow PD, if it's the Idaho State Police, whoever did it, the prosecution, they're the ones speaking for everybody. They're the voice. So they're speaking for everybody that did the work. Okay. And apparently, one of them was doing the work, like writing the warrants and stuff like that. So they're knowledgeable, but they stand up at the podium at hearings and say, we don't have anything.
You're missing the whole point.
We don't have it. We can't give you we can't produce what we don't have.
You're missing the whole point.
What's the point?
The point is, are you saying that information that the prosecution is speaking for the people on, that information, is it good information or bad information? Or is it information that exonerates Bryan Kohberger or convicts Bryan Kohberger?
That's the prosecution side. So of course they're going to want to prosecute him. They're going to want to say, we have the information that clearly shows he was there at the time of the crime and he's the one that did this. But the defense deserves they deserve to get their hands on that same evidence and interpret it and do it their way, because they're going to battle it out at trial.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen.
That you know of.
In any of the records, they never got that.
That has been released so far.
All the court documents are in there. Some are redacted. So
Okay.
yeah, they have to be unredacted still.
So you're missing my
redacted.
If the FBI has this information, like Cy Ray is saying, they use this information to provide the prosecution and investigators with the information that came from this timing advance data that's so elusive. Only the FBI has it, but they used it in a way to give it to the prosecution, to say this suspect was here, here, and here, and this is how we used it, and we believe that this person was in these locations. Does that help the defense, or does that help the prosecution?
That helps the prosecution.
So why is he saying that, hey, the FBI took this information, disseminated it, gave it to the prosecution, and this gold mine of evidence is convicting my client?
That logic doesn't, I don't even know what you're saying.
That's the problem.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying the defense attorney has asked in motions to compel evidence, discovery, turn it over. We don't have it. Turn it over. We don't have it.
They don't have it.
He's saying, I know you used it. Why are we going around and around in circles on this?
He's not saying we know you used it. He's saying, I know the FBI has it. And
honey, the FBI is not at court.
Exactly. Now we're getting somewhere. The FBI has not turned over anything, because when we were watching the hearings during discovery, Moscow would always say, we don't have that. That's the FBI. You got to go to the FBI for that. I cannot give you that because I don't have it. Everything that I have in the 64 terabytes, you have access to.
Do you think that's the way our judicial system should work?
I don't care.
I don't care when it's you.
I don't care about, let's go off into a semantic. What I'm saying is what happened at pre-trial.
Well, that's
hearings.
ridiculous. I mean, that's ridiculous to say we're going to put somebody in jail based on DNA that the FBI has that they won't share, this mapping that the FBI has.
I don't know that
they won't share.
I don't know the DNA's.
Oh, for sure. They said you can only use it as a tip. The FBI said, here you go, here's the name, but don't use it in court. You can only use it as a tip. So why?
The
That's
DNA,
curious.
the DNA, you don't have that statement correct, my love. The statement is, we got a piece of DNA off the sheath and we matched it to the father of the perpetrator, and then we matched it to the perpetrator. Oh, that's the DNA.
No, yes, but the FBI did all that. The FBI did all that. Remember, we talked about how when it was at Othram, they said stop, and then the FBI took over.
Yeah, we said that, but that wasn't true. Remember, because then Othram came on and did an interview and said, everybody who was saying that the FBI took it and did the IgG, no, we did it.
Right. It never left Othram. It was like the authority became the FBI. We had a whole conversation about this. Oh, right here. There is no doubt the author of this current motion, Prosecutor Ashley Jennings, knew or should have known AT&T Timing Advance data did exist in 2022. She was directly involved in the legal process obtaining it and was aware of work product created from it to further the investigation. The current motion is a deliberate misrepresentation to the court to further conceal false statements used to obtain probable cause against the defendant and conceal exculpatory evidence from discovery. Still doesn't say an email.
And he said in that sentence what he said in the above sentence. He's hinting at it, but he doesn't know it is fact. And that's what
hinting at it. That is not a hint. That is not a hint. He said, I know for sure.
I know for sure. And what's the 3/4 words after that? I know for sure that the prosecution knew or should have known. He's giving himself an out. You have to read these are legal documents. Every word is important. This isn't a novel. This isn't where, hey, I can create the scene. You have to read every word. He says clearly, known or should have known, because I don't know for a fact. So I have to leave it vague. That's what I'm talking about with these documents.
So I cannot find anywhere about an email in here. So it does say, because it says prosecutor Ashley Jennings knew or should have known, then he's saying, I can't prove anything about her. So I can't prove she knows, but I know that this information exists. And that's why I'm getting frustrated with you, that you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that this doesn't show it exists. Like, are you saying that they created maps and information without this timing advance data? Like, I don't understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying is they could have and they couldn't have. And that's what he's saying in the documents. It looks to him, based on his expertise, that what has been presented looks like, man, that is this little police department was able to put together a pretty precise mapping of something that I've only seen done in the past, in my expert opinion, only with the assistance of advanced timing data, is what he is saying in this document. Okay, that's what I was trying to get you to hear.
But he knows. He knows the technology. He knows the industry. He's like the leader in it.
No one's disputing that.
And I got hung up and frustrated with you talking about, like, why you're thinking it's okay that the FBI had it. The FBI had it. They did it. Somehow the prosecutors got the information.
I agree with the defense that when they were asking for discovery, that they were asking for specific items, and Moscow was saying, I have that. I'll give you that. You haven't had that yet. I just did that last night. It got to you this morning. It's in our cage where you can come in and take a look, and I've offered that to you. They've also said, we don't have this because the FBI does, and we can't make them give that to you, so somebody else has to. That's the point I'm conceding that you're not hearing.
Okay. I hear it.
Okay.
And we're going to wrap this up, because the point is Cy Ray's information insignificant now or still significant? And I think if we're still trying to see evidence that shows that they have the right person in jail, that all that information we just talked about in this whole episode is extremely significant, in my opinion.
And in my opinion is that with the phone being off, I don't know how much this 7-day, it only exists supposedly for 7 days, timing advanced data is going to tell us, to the point that it is going to make the other AT&T data, the one that is out there and floating around where everybody has seen it.
I don't know if anybody's seen it, the pings you're talking about.
Yeah, just the normal. I mean, defense has seen it.
The defense, not the public.
Yeah. But that puts Kohberger closer to the crime scene than Wawa Park or whatever that place is called. If this advanced timing data is going to take him from there with the basic data and put him way over there, then that is going to be the coup of the century.
Yep.
And if I was innocent and I was Bryan Kohberger, and Cy had this information,
Well,
why aren't you screaming it from the mountaintops? And I personally, just like Karen Reed, maybe through the non-advice of counsel, I would be on 2020 and Dateline and hanging with Turtle Boy, even though they're not friends anymore, and telling everybody, how innocent I am.
I still feel like that too, but I also know that there's a lot of things that could make you shut up real fast. A lot of threats, probably out there, and I just always think back to, like, look at what happened to Richard Allen and the way they treated him, and there's reasons. There could be reasons. I don't know if that's for sure. So I'm not saying, to me, this isn't a fight over. I can't say they have the wrong guy anymore because he pled guilty and he's in prison, but part of me is still like, I guess I still can say that, but it's not more about proving he's innocent. It's more about getting the documents and just seeing, okay, how did they know he did it? Like, that's what I'm interested in. I just want to know, because I thought he was the wrong guy for so long. So I thought he was the wrong guy for so long. He comes out of the blue and says, okay, I did it. And gosh, like, what? And then it's like, okay, my gosh, what did we miss? Why was I thinking that way? Let me see it. Let me see what you got. And that's all I want. And that's why I keep bringing this up.
What you're hinting to is, there's threats in the outside world. So I have an entire state planet that I could run and hide in without borders and be free, knowing that there may be a few people out there that want to get me because, I told on them or whatever. There was co-conspirators or whatever the theory is. But instead of me having this vast land or lands or the world at my disposal, I'd rather be in a confined space with and trained killers and try my luck there.
Yeah.
Come on. If two people were after me and one of them was in prison, hundreds of them are in prison. They want a piece of me because it's going to make them famous. Or 5 people are out here that want a piece of me, but I have the whole planet at my disposal to run and hide in. I'm going to choose prison.
Well, as curious as that is, it's also curious that there are co-conspirators, at least, because there's evidence of multiple perpetrators and a cleanup.
I don't know about that. I was going to challenge you in
that. Said it.
I want to hear and see that.
Yeah.
Because I heard a lot of people say that. I haven't heard any official somebody saying that.
I'll go look for that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely hear what you're saying. Let's, a lot of talk, like, why take that plea deal? And if he did, because he's the person that did it, can we please, for the love of God, just see how you knew, how'd you figure it out? How'd you crack the case? That's what I want to see. That's it. So, all right. Do you still think he's insignificant? Do you think there's anything to what I pointed out?
Well, and I'm glad you pulled up these documents, because part of my insignificant is him going into that last hearing where he was going to testify and it was all going to come out and people were sitting there with bated breath.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, he didn't say anything of substance. He hinted to a lot of stuff. He made a lot of accusations. And I remember the community going bonkers on Hitler about calling him a conspiracy theorist. But all he was doing was he had nothing tangible. And for Cy, somebody who I was like, I'm willing to listen to the Pied Piper. I'm heading to the fence with Cy. When this came out, I kind of took a step back. And then once they lifted the gag order, and he wasn't one of the first people to speak, I was at the end of the line. Barely hear the music anymore. So something drastic needs to change with him, either an Idaho website and him detailing
Right,
everything.
yeah.
But right now, I'm at the end of the line and I can't hear the music playing when I was close to the front a little while ago. That's my point.
We are waiting for him to come talk, and for some reason he can't. So I still think there's things going on in the background with I did hear that the Innocence Project has been watching this case, and I do think that there are decisions made by the judge that maybe weren't made the right way, or things like that that are going to I pique the Innocence Project's interest, and they've already started looking into it. So maybe they will be able to dig up some stuff.
And I keep wanting to let you go ahead and end this, but you keep sparking stuff at me. The Innocence Project, to me, and I'm all for it. I'm down with it. But to me, the Innocence Project is, I don't want a guilty person in prison.
Yes.
The Innocent Project isn't necessarily the ACLU, which says my rights have been violated. So I want to stand behind this person because my rights have been violated. If the Innocent Project is looking at this case solely because they don't like the fact that the defense didn't get a Franks hearing, or the defense or the Hippler told Cy he was a conspiracy theorist, that's not what I think the Innocence Project is. The Innocence Project is there because of the name and its title, that that person has been convicted or has done time and they're innocent.
Yeah.
Not that they got, you know,
Right.
maybe their rights violated or lost on a technicality or something like that. That's not the Innocence Project to me.
No, correct.
Okay.
And I certainly don't want a guilty person let out. So, you know.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Can I go into the room and cry now?
You stop. Don't pretend, because I'm the one that was upset.
We
Hold
get
on.
passionate.
We do. Okay, well, we're gonna wrap this up. That was this was
Hot in here.
I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing on this one. Got a little heated over here. But I think we brought up some good points. So thanks for talking about it with me. Oh gosh, ultimately we just want the truth, but
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
when I'm listening to this back, there were some things that were sparked, some ideas during this that I want to go back and dig into and do some little episodes, make some videos on them with that information. Join us back for the next big
Woo,
discussion.
God, I'm afraid of the next one.
We'll see you then. Bye.
Thanks for watching, hope you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. Subscribe, it's free and keeps us going strong. You're part of the crew now, right where you belong. Join us next time, same truth, same fire. We bring the heat and never tire. We're typically unique and proud to be a husband and wife in podcast harmony. That could be unique, yeah, that's you and me. Don't forget to like and hit subscribe, it's free. Come back again, we'll be right here with truth that lasts and zero fear. We don't always agree, but that's the show. One love, two minds, letting it flow. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. We don't always agree, but that's the show. One love, two minds, letting it flow. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. We don't always agree, but you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. We dig deep with crack jokes, we call it like we see. If that's your vibe, you belong here with me. Thanks for watching, hope you felt the spark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. Please hit that like before it gets dark. It's free, it keeps us going strong. You're part of the crew now, right where you belong. Join us next time, same truth, same fire. We bring the heat and never tire. We're typically unique and proud to be a husband and wife, and proud to be a husband and wife. podcast harmony. Yeah, that's you and me. That's you and me. Don't forget to like, hit subscribe. It's free. Come back again, we'll be right here with truth and laughs and zero fear.